So yeah, welcome everyone. We are very happy to see you, to greet you on our webinar of our strategic community, which is organized by International Association of Strategy Professionals, Kazakhstan, and United Kingdom chapters. So the name of our webinar today is The New Perspectives on Strategy in a World Where Organizations Have to Be Adaptive. For those who doesn't know me, my name is Yulia, and I'm the lead for International Association of Strategy Professionals Kazakhstan team. So before we actually start diving deeper into the topic, which will be actually shared with us today by our invited speaker, David Booth, let us talk a little bit about our organization, because I can see some familiar faces, and also I can see some people who have never been part of our events before. So let me just give you some more information. Well, the name of our organization, and to be particular, a chapter in Kazakhstan, is International Association of Strategy Professionals. The idea of this community was born quite long ago, last century to be specific, but it was founded in 1999. So this is a non-profit professional organization who supports strategy professionals all around the world. We do have several chapters in the world, like those which you can see on the slide: USA, UK, Germany, Australia, China, Saudi Arabia, Uganda, Kazakhstan, and recently we also got a new chapter that is based in Armenia. So there are several of us representing IOSP in the world. Kazakhstan chapter was actually founded last year, and our members do include different professionals from various sectors like energy, government, banking, and many others. We do have a mission and a vision, because we are the community of strategists, of course. So we are establishing the strategies community Future in Kazakhstan, CIS, and Central Asia, promoting holistic and effective approach to strategy management through international standards, certifications, leadership, and development of professionals and organizations. So if you are curious to know more about our community, do not hesitate to contact us using any open channels, and at the end of my slides, that are actually very short, I will be sharing their contact information. So if you are still not the member, then you can have a look at this slide and maybe attribute yourself to some category on this slide. But I personally, as a project management and change management consultant, adore being part of this community, because it gives me a lot of tools for my job and also a lot of networking. So I do enjoy, and I hope you will also enjoy if you join us. The membership is paid. However, you get a lot in response. For instance, it's a lot of networking all over the world, across all the chapters that you have just seen. We do have discounts for International Association of Strategy Professional certifications, which are quite significant in my personal view. We do have also discounts for conference attendance of our organization, and of course, different kind of tools and processes through networking and events. What I especially adore as a member of ISP is that we do have a free copy of a strategic body of knowledge developed by ISP. I do use it at my consulting practice, and I do recommend anyone who would like to have the strategy of their companies developed, Excel, just buy this membership and you will see how much value it gives. And of course, there is also very interesting opportunity for members who would like to be published, like publish their articles. I personally was the first from Kazakhstan to publish my article in the Strategy magazine. It was a very exciting process, and I was very much supported by ISP, and I do recommend you continue this practice if you are interested. And yeah, you will have the access to this magazine as well if you buy the membership. Well, when it comes to pricing, you can see this on the slide, but I will not go into deeper details because you will get the presentation and the slides after our events to the email that you used to register for today. But just good news for Kazakhstan, it's quite bearable and it's annual membership, and in response you get a lot. So one of the things you get in response for the membership fee is actually the discount to very interesting and famous strategy certifications. So ISP is the only one strategic organization in the world that provides certifications in strategy. One of them is strategy management professional, the other is strategy planning professional for those who are just starting their careers in strategy. And the first one is like the advanced strategy certification. So if you require more details on certification and would like to know more, please contact us at any time you feel is comfortable for you, and we will share the contacts shortly. We are always open for collaboration in Kazakhstan and across the countries. You might consider different roles when collaborating with us, like partner, sponsor, meeting attendee, or volunteer. We always need volunteers to help us develop strategy professionals. By the way, about volunteers, we do have a leadership committee for Kazakhstan, and you can see myself on the slide. I also have some colleagues with me on this particular slide, and we do have actually Karlagash online. So Karlagash, greetings. I hope you're good. And Karlagash is responsible for like any projects that we might think of in our chapter, and also for finance. There are some other people who were not able to join, and those are more. We have more people here. We have a big team, but we are always open to greeting new volunteers because everything we do for promoting EISP in Kazakhstan is actually on a volunteering basis. So thank you, my teammates, greetings. Our funny pictures, we do have our meetings. Some of them are offline, and today we are having an online meeting. Actually, we have monthly meetings, and this is one of them. Here you can see our contacts on the slide. Feel free to contact us whenever you need. But now I would like to actually give the floor to our invited guest, David Booth, who is the president of ISP United Kingdom chapter, the lead over there, and also strategy consultant with years and years of experience. So maybe David will share more details about himself, but I'm so excited that today we are going to talk about the adaptive strategies for companies because the world changes so fast. I'm astonished how fast it changes every day, so companies need to adapt. So the agenda of our today's meeting is that we are starting with David, and David sharing what he knows, what he brought for us, for our community today. Then we are turning to some interactive section where everyone will have the opportunity to ask the questions. Or otherwise, do not forget we have our chat active. And if you want to post some question to the chat, feel free, because I will then voice it to our small company tonight and today. So David, the floor is yours. Please, welcome.
Thank you, Julia. And I'm really pleased to be here and to meet everybody. I would, as I said beforehand, I would love to come to Kazakhstan to explore it. I've heard, read so much about it. And congratulations on starting the chapter there. Excellent. And ISP is a wonderful global network where people can learn from people in different countries and different experiences. And I do encourage everybody to take advantage of it, because it's by sharing information and by sharing our experiences and sharing our thinking that we learn and we get better and have different ideas about how to do strategy. So what I'm going to go through today is very much a personal view, a personal perspective, based on, I suppose, my approach to strategy and what I've seen and what I've learned. And I'm going to start, if that's okay, by sharing some slides, simply just to act as a prompt to discussion. So please stop me at any stage if I'm going too fast, or you want to question anything. But let me sort of go through a few slides and see whether that provokes and stimulates any thinking and discussion that we can talk about later, because that's the important thing. So I hope I'm able to share my slides.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, should be able to do.
Yeah, you should be.
It says there's a problem displaying the content. Let me try again. I think it's coming through. Let me know when you can see it.
Yeah,
is that visible?
Yeah, it's visible. The first slide.
Okay, that's great. So I wanted to look at what I've seen in terms of the changes to how organizations are approaching strategy. And I want to go through what I've seen as being how the practice of strategy is evolving. And in particular, some of the things how organizations can navigate the uncertainty of futures and different futures. And this is really something I've seen accelerate in organizations since the COVID-19 pandemic and the shocks that have happened then. And I particularly want to focus on the capabilities and the approach that organizations can have to begin to build that dynamic, adaptable approach to strategy and strategic planning. To start with, when I first started working on strategic planning in organizations about 30 years ago, there was a very traditional approach. It was very sequential, one step after another. You had a project approach to formulating a strategic plan, and then the organization moved into implementing, gearing up, and then was the strategy executed? Was it realized? And then a lot of that was driven by the financial planning cycle in organizations rather than perhaps changes. And after 5 years or 3 years or 5 years, the organization would repeat it. So it was a cycle they went through. And that was perhaps based on the fact that in the organization, people were perceiving that they had a defined market, a defined sector, and they could control their future within that sector. It was very, very linear, very predictive forecasting, carrying forward, and very mechanistic. What, of course, actually happens in strategy is nothing like what organizations plan. After the initial enthusiasm of producing a strategic plan, and then the energy that went into organizing the teams to change that, what happens is that drifts. Things happen, slow down, they don't go as fast as planned. Different things change, and all of a sudden you're finding you're way off where the organization thought that it might be. And something else emerges, perhaps there's an external change, or you lose some key people internally or key resources, and then you try and have a new strategy, and that drifts as well. So the realized strategy, what actually happens is very, very different from what might have been set out, which led people to question, why do strategic plans, or are we no good at actually implementing those plans? So what perspectives maybe are quite important now to reflect on as to how organizations can approach their strategy? And there are three different perspectives that come to mind. One is the realization that organizations exist in what I call an ecosystem. It isn't simply that an organization works in a market. That market is comprised of, that area, that ecosystem is comprised of competitors, regulators, of consumers, people who take it on board. There's a lot that influences what happens, and it's a very responsive system that it works in, not something that is very linear and controlled. It's also a complex system. The dynamics are complex. You can't necessarily predict what can happen. And you have things that change, innovations that change, circumstances that change. It's a very fluid and complex environment. And of course, as we found out very starkly 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, futures are uncertain. Things can be quite radical and quite change. So there isn't the certainty that perhaps the people perceive there wants to be. And there are other trends in how organizations are approaching it, from a very top-down, restricted to the senior management, every 3 to 5 years, taking a very linear, sequential approach. Lots of energy goes in at the start, and then perhaps less energy in the phases of implementation. The thinking is now you need to be much more engaged in strategy as an ongoing process. It needs to be dynamic. It needs to be able to quick to respond. It's all part of the daily living of an organization, not just something that you do every 3 to 5 years. And importantly, how do you build up those capabilities to in order for the organization to do that? And I think fundamental on this is the mindsets, the way you think on organizations think about strategy. So there was a lot of focus on producing a plan, producing a strategic plan as a document that sat and provided the template for going forward. A different mindset says that actually strategy is about exploring, it's about anticipating, it's about setting the direction for the future that the organization moves forward on. And it's about learning as you go on that journey. So it's like a journey analogy, a strategy journey that an organization goes on. And I love this quote. It's taken from a professor who works in Vlerick Business School in Belgium, and is a recent book. And he says that strategy is no longer about finding a favorable position in an industry that's well defined, but it's about actually building dynamic capabilities to cope with changing conditions and turbulent time. And that emphasis on capabilities, I think, is key, absolutely key. And I wanted to look at, I've done some work over the last 4 or 5 years on looking at the different capabilities that organizations might need. And this is, if you like, my own framework for thinking about this. So I'd say there are 3 areas in building those capabilities. How you do strategy in an organization, how it thinks about the future or possible futures, and how the organization culture influences and affects that. 3 things to focus on. So strategy work, to me, isn't about this technique or that technique, or having to go through this tool and that tool and that tool. It's about, what do you need to do as an organization to make sense of where the organization is going and how it's going to get there? And I would like to say that strategy work is about 3 things. It's about different perspectives, the way you bring different thinking in to the organization, from outside, from inside, when you understand where you've come from, you understand where you might go to. It's also about questions, posing the questions and then going on a process to answer the questions that matter to the organization, defining them. And very, very importantly, strategy work isn't about workshops, board away days, weekends. It's about every single conversation you have about where the organization is going. And those conversations and the quality and richness of those conversations is so important in an organization strategy work and how it goes about it. Who is involved, how they flow, how they're taken on board. And there are 3 aspects, I think, in capabilities. How well do people in the organization think about strategy? How do you manage those processes to have those conversations? And how do you lead the organization to know when to accelerate, when to focus, when to bring people together again, and how to build those capabilities of the organization as you proceed? I love this diagram from Henry Mintzberg about perspectives. It shows all the different dimensions and directions about how you think about strategy. It isn't just about the future. It's where have you come from as an organization? What's happening outside? What's happening within the organization? What could happen beyond? And what might be the implications of that going forward? And in particular, there's much more now a stronger focus on futures thinking and how an organization thinks about the future. And a lot of, when you talk about we must get on board, must think more about the future, a lot of organizations think that means they must have strategic foresight. They must look at the trends. They must investigate the trends. It's not just that. It's about how the organization thinks about the implications of those trends. So to me, it's about having the antennae that sense what's happening around and about and what might happen, those trends and that foresight. It's being creative, of thinking about what different scenarios might that be? How might that be? What might be the scope of possible and plausible and probable futures? And what might be the scenarios that's presented, and being prepared to think about that creatively as well. But also thinking about the implications. What are the implications for the organization now? And what are the type of implications if something happens in future? What might it do? So part of the real strength of genuine futures thinking is, can you anticipate as an organization? And can you prepare yourself to be able to respond if something happens? And what's the likelihood and the impact of some of those changes? Can you influence it or not? And what agency do you have to be able to affect and to do things? And futures work, that thinking about the future, isn't a one-off exercise that is fed in at the start of the process. It's got to be integrated within part of your strategy process, your strategizing process. So it's being a regular voice and feeding in some of those trends, regularly reviewing, sense checking, repeating some of those scenarios into seeing where what's relevant. Are things changing? It's an ongoing part of your thinking and your strategy work. And taking that approach, as an organization, you have to think about how you accept, how comfortable you are with the greater uncertainty that exists. Going back to traditional strategic planning, organizations wanted things to be predicted, more or less certain, more or less in line, focused on achieving that. Opening up the greater uncertainty means you have to be prepared as an organization to accept that things might not work out in the straight line that you were thinking. And again, it's about that journey. It's about being prepared to whatever you encounter when you're on the next stage of the path, when you're rounding the path to a next horizon. What might occur? What might you come across? Being prepared for that uncertainty. And what are your appetite for strategic risks that are there? It's, you can't stop everything from happening. Can you accept that there are greater risks by taking that approach? And every organization, each organization will have its own comfort factor, its own boundaries for that, its own limits, which may change, but it's got to be comfortable at the time about accepting that. So as you can see, there's a lot of thinking and conversations about how an organization picks up and thinks about these capabilities, not just about the approach to strategy. And to become adaptable, it's an organization prepared to experiment and fail at the experiment. Is it prepared to actually put some resources into flexibly into trying something out or not? Can it be decisive in terms of saying, no, this isn't working. We stop this because it's not working. And how well does it learn from what it does rather than blame for something not working out? So there are questions there about the organization to think through how it becomes adaptable and how agile it can become and its approach to it. Fundamental as well is how the culture of the organization enables this type of thinking and these type of conversations. How it supports people, perhaps if there's an error or mistake or something is not right. How it engages people so they understand and make sense about where the organization's going. And can they contribute to that process of strategizing? And can the organization learn? And the learning organization, it's absolutely crucial. There is a great quote from one of the professors here in Yorkshire in the UK that I know. It says, learning is the only sustainable, competitive, and collaborative advantage that an individual, an organization, or a government can have. That ability to learn and to adapt is so fundamental to enabling an organization to survive. So sort of bringing all that together in terms of the capabilities, those three domain areas, how would you use strategy? How well can you think and talk about strategy? How well do you enable those conversations in your organization and to feed them in and to take note of them? How can you lead strategy in the organization? Do you lead it with knowing how to build those capabilities, how to develop it, when to accelerate the focus, when to bring it in? How can you steer and support the organization? Then all of those issues about how you think about the future, how deeply you think, and the risks and the uncertainty you're prepared to accept, and how you adapt. How will you adapt? And then the culture, how you cultivate a culture that supports that type of thinking, supporting your people, engaging, and importantly above all, learning from that process. So I will stop sharing. That's, I hope is, how do I stop sharing? That I hope is how we'll simulate some discussion about how to, we can talk about how some of those things, and how capabilities, and maybe some questions. Just trying to find how to stop sharing my slides, right?
Oh, just the same button as you used to share. You just press it one more time.
Okay, as simple as that.
Yeah, so thank you very much, David. Very well structured, by the way, slide. I like it so much, and thank you for sharing. And especially, I liked the part about risk management, like strategic risks, and also flexibility and fast learning. You know, this is very much in line what I think organizations should have as a professional. So I think now it's high time for us to go to the questions part from our audience, and I think it would be fair to start with those who are actually online with us today. So I can see Carla Gash raising her hand. So Carla Gash, please.
Hi, David.
Hello.
Thank you for your presentation. Yeah, my name is Karl Gash. I'm a strategy head for national network of schools, and it's partially financed by the government. So we have quite flexibility because we are autonomous organization. However, anyway, we have a very, like, how to say, long-term and strict strategy. So how do you think, in which way we can be like using adaptive approach for strategy, especially implementation, execution, and how it can be integrated into quite bureaucratic organization, I would say.
Yes, and when you're in when you're in a public service organization, it's quite a different feel to when you're in a commercial business in the market. And I think the journey analogy still works. The factors that you have a purpose within a public sector organization. Purpose is so powerful, and delivering that purpose and achieving that purpose and flexing your resources and adapting as to how to do that, I think provides you with a very clear direction and vision that you can move towards. So I think perhaps the adaptability comes in how you're responsive to when things aren't working as well as you wanted to, or things are going well, and trying perhaps different approaches, different pilots of things, and learning from that and bringing it back into the organization. So I think it's much more your mission, your purpose is arguably very well defined. You're responding to how you deliver that purpose within what is going on around you and how the progress you're making towards that. Does that make sense? Does it help to put it into the context of
thank you.
how you adapt?
I didn't tell you that we have quite a right to commercialize. Maybe not directly, but we are selling services to public. So, for example, we have two private schools, and also we have courses for teachers, like selling books, etc. So we might use adaptive approach there. Could you please show again the slide with, I don't remember. There was a, I don't remember if you could move.
Let me bring it on again in terms of
Yeah.
the slides and see which one. Tell me when to stop.
Yeah. Maybe no, before.
Before, sorry.
Here. So the
Okay.
plan and journey means journey is in
Yeah, probably the next one where journey is.
Next one.
Yeah.
This one?
Okay. No.
That one?
No. Yeah, it means that. No. Next, I think.
Next.
Oh yeah, there is
this
the
one.
journey.
Yeah. So plan means not adaptive approach. Journey means adaptive, or how?
Okay. Yes. So it's really the focus on if you yes, you always need a plan. Of course, you need a plan because strategy is about what you do next. I think what I intended with this is that with mindset before, if you like, the traditional strategic planning, everything was focused on a plan that was set, a plan that was fixed, that you then had to put into practice regardless as an organization. Whereas the journey approach means that you are continually adapting your plan and your thinking as you move forward to reflect what is happening now. So it's a much faster cycle of thinking. And to do that, you need to get a balance, because when you had the strategic plan for 5 years as everything, so much energy and effort and management focus went into producing a document and a plan that was then fixed in many ways or then judged against. You need a balance here. You still need how you're moving forward with your plan, but you need to have less energy. You need to have more energy into how you adapt that plan and how you change it more frequently as you're going forward and thinking about it more. It's much more of an ongoing journey than it is a single plan and then that doesn't get changed. Does that help?
Okay, thank you, David. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. And we actually do have some pre-recorded, or I would say pre-asked questions in the registration form. But before we come up to them, we have also Nestor wanting to ask a question. So Nestor, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. David, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hello.
Yeah. I teach strategic management at several universities. I have a big background in developing AI strategies, IT strategies, sales strategies, overall business strategies in various companies. And I want to pass you the question which I'm usually being asked by my students in Kazakhstan. What they tend to say, they say that the world is going so fast that why should we strategize? It's better to go and sell, go and produce, and make money rather than strategize. I explain to them, from my perspective, and if you want, I can share with you after you answer what I tell them. But I wonder what you have to say about it.
Two strategists having conversations.
Why strategize? Okay. What do you do? What do you do is the answer. What does the organization do? Where do you focus? Where do you go next? Yes, of course, you can focus on doing what you're doing now. You can focus on not thinking about the future, not thinking too much, and just responding. But you need a process for that responding and taking on board. What do you respond to? Sorry, I'm not asking you. I'm saying this is how I'd answer the question. Yeah. What do you respond to? What changes might be happening that because you are focused on simply doing what you're doing, you are missing, or you might miss. What might you need in order to be able to thrive and develop as an organization? And does everybody agree? Is everybody along the same lines about what you're doing and what you're focusing on? Do you have a common view about that activity, or is it everybody doing whatever they think is right? The purpose of strategizing, strategy is about people and people in an organization. And if people in an organization together haven't got a sense about where it's going, where it fits in, then it's just a series of activities that are going. So the purpose of strategizing is to help people make sense about what they're doing and how they can move together towards that. That would be my first answer. What was yours? What was yours?
Mine is as follows. When you plan to get somewhere, you stock up your fuel tank in your car with some good gasoline. You make sure that your car is repaired. You understand that you know the driving rules. And you clearly have the vision for the destination where you want to get. And this is all what strategy means. You check the resources, you check the rules, regulations, you make sure that you have the capacity to get there, and you know where to get. Because if you don't know where to get, why should you start the whole move? And that's why you need the strategy. This is my answer.
Yes, I love that, Nesta. That is great. The car analogy. Again, it's that journey, isn't it? It's a journey of being prepared and doing things. Great answer.
Yeah.
Other
people tend to understand horses and cars very well. Therefore, explain something by horse or something by car, they grasp it much easier.
Yeah, I think I might borrow that if I may. That's
no
very
problem. Good. As long as you refer to the intellectual property rights.
Of course. Yes, good.
Yes, thank you. It was a very interesting question, and I would say philosophical even for any scale of business. So we do have some more questions in the chat. Let us maybe proceed with the one to David, because Dean, there is also a question for you in the chat, but first of all, the one from Butter to David. What organizational capabilities support the strategic management of uncertainty during early project definition? And how is this uncertainty captured and tracked? Oh, this is a nice one. Uncertainty captured and tracked.
Okay. So one of the things that I keep hearing from project managers when we're talking about the link with strategy is that quite often there is a separation that forms, that the link back into strategy, organization strategy, perhaps after initially gets further and further away. So it's not seen as part of, no longer, it's seen as very much focused on implementation and not actually part of fitting into the cycle of strategic thinking. I think if you are looking at the uncertainties that exist on the strategic sense, that the understanding about what might influence a particular project needs explaining, needs articulating, needs bringing out right at the start of a project, like you say, at the start of the early project definition. But not just then, because that in a way needs articulating, but keeping referring back to it. So, and again, that if the uncertainty, if something changes, something is uncertain about it and changes, then it's that feedback loop back into the strategic thinking, and vice versa. If something changes that's picked up on in the strategy conversations that affects how that project might progress or the value of that progress, then that's part of the conversation. So to me, a link between your strategizing processes, your strategy and conversation, and every single project that's a part of that is actually a key part of that conversation. And like all of strategy, you need to continually be talking about it and repeating it. It's not a one-off. It's not something that exists by itself. You carry on with the conversations and the recognition in case something changes. It's a dialogue. It's a two-way thing. Does that answer your question? Does that help?
Yes, looks like Butter got the point, and I could also add that maybe project portfolio management can be really helpful in this one as well. Plus, of course, risk management. Okay, so Butter, let us know if David could really help you out with your question. So just a couple of minutes for Dean. Dean, would you like to comment on the question that you got on the chat, or?
Yes, thank you so much. And David, thank you for allowing me to jump in here and respond to an important question. You will most likely have an answer to add to this as well, but I was just typing that the body of knowledge is indeed a living document, and get rid of these messages that keep popping and blocking my chat. In other words, it's crafted by IASP members, leaders, and key stakeholders like David Booth for professionals in the field. At best, it's a compilation of experiences and lessons collected by these leaders and individuals to help them in their strategy planning and strategy management tasks. Every 5 years, we conduct a job task analysis to evaluate the ecosystem, as David has described quite correctly. And what we get back from these job task analyses is a better understanding of some of the new ideas in strategy, like the ones our friend has raised here, specifically adaptive strategy and AI for strategy. I can assure you those ideas, those concepts, and others are being considered as we speak by the leadership that put together the body of knowledge. And it will evolve, it will continue to evolve. And our job is to get it out to you to help you in your roles as strategy planners and strategy managers. I should emphasize it is not an exhaustive publication, and anyone who comes to write the exam is encouraged to consult other important sources to help them understand what strategy planning and management is all about. But for the most part, the credentials that we offer reflect what's going on out there in the field right now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dean. Thank you so much. I like this thing that the body of knowledge is evolving, and it should be. Maybe one day, as a professional, I will have this opportunity to contribute as well. So we have around 10 minutes left until the end of our meeting, and I suggest we just jump to the pre-asked questions in the registration form, and we can just continue naturally to AI. Because yeah, there were around 2 questions on AI and strategy in the registration form, and let me just put it as one. So how AI is going to affect strategic planning in your understanding, David, and also for how many years ahead we should plan on the background that AI is evolving that rapidly?
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? Because AI is the next big thing that is grabbing everybody's attention, and quite understandably, it's potentially transformative. And we don't know what to do with it, and we don't know how far it's going to go, and it's quite exciting and quite scary, causing a lot of people to think. So I think you're learning about AI, and we're learning about its limitations, its opportunities, and its development. Right now, I think there are, I'd summarize maybe 3 areas where AI can be quite helpful in contributing to strategic planning. One of those is in sort of research and data and analysis, and doing the analysis of data. The second is in perhaps coming up with not necessarily different perspectives, but slightly different views or different things than you might have naturally thought of, that prompt you to think about as an organization. And the third area is perhaps in articulating, summarizing, expressing, writing, helping the writing of those ideas, that thinking, that will help to express it. However, the limitations are that AI is very predictive logic. It isn't necessarily creative. And therefore the limitations of it, it does not replace the type of deep thinking that humans can do and need to do, and neither should we lose that ability to be critical or creative or challenging. So checking and challenging anything to do with AI is really quite key. And don't delegate the responsibility to AI for any of those things. Always check, use it as a tool. A bit like the tools we use in strategic planning, whether that's a SWOT tool or a matrix here or there, they are only tools. An Excel spreadsheet is a tool. AI is a different level of tool, but it is still only a tool. So the place in that, it can be useful, and you learn by how you use it, but you learn and you still keep a sense of, I am checking, I am challenging, I am not abdicating responsibility to AI, it's still taken on board. And the second part of the question, how many years ahead should we plan the strategy? I think that goes for, okay, in times of AI when there's rapid change. But AI isn't the only change that's rapid. And AI isn't the only significant change. There are political influences, there are climate influences that are global as comes to AI. There are things of change within any local environment, any area, with any industry environment as well. So personally, I would say that a strategy in an organization has got to be a platform for immediate action. It's a starting point for what happens next in the organization, however long that might be. And it's also a tool, which is why explaining the understanding, or people understanding why a strategy has been chosen or adapted, is key. It's also a tool to help people to adapt, be prepared to adapt for whatever might trigger that change. So it encapsulates the thinking and the learning as much as it does, here is the output and the solution. And strategy is a living tool. It's a living direction, living platform. How do you plan ahead? Well, you can plan ahead. You might have to plan ahead longer term if you're in an industry or a company that requires long-term investment, say in infrastructure, etc. You have to think ahead on that. On a market company, it's maybe you need to be flexible to adapt within 3 years or 5 years. But whichever you take, it's that continual process of examining it, etc., and being prepared to change it and knowing what might change it. It's that understanding that's key, not the actual output. I hope that's a personal view. It helps.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I like this part where you say that AI is not the only challenge we have to manage these days. Definitely, it's not the only one. I think we have covered the major part of questions from the registration form, apart from cultural part. And this was also on your slide deck about the cultural part. So I have 2 questions here, and those probably will be concluding today's session. So first one is, what is the biggest mistake from the team when the company is trying to be adaptive?
Okay. I think it's important to recognize that this is a journey of becoming adaptive. It's not we are now adaptive or we're not adaptive. It's a journey. There will be setbacks. There will be things that don't go right. The important thing is to learn, not to blame. And that's part of, we're going to come on to culture. That's part of the mindset. That's part of the culture. The second thing is to have energy and commitment, and that's the direction to sustain it. It would be easy if there's a setback to stop doing it, to think it's failed, etc. You need the energy to carry forward and become adaptive, and the belief that that is right in order to thrive. So you need courage, you need consistency of saying this is the path we're going on and we've got to do this. And you need conversations that reinforce that, to avoid lapsing into it's failed, it's blamed, we can't. It's an encouragement. We can become adaptive. If you don't adapt, you don't survive. Nothing survives without learning or adapting. And it's almost that mentality, which brings me very nicely onto culture. Do you want to ask the question on culture? Or shall I just comment on it, Yulia?
Actually, I'm thinking in continuation of what you are saying, I'm thinking that survival is optional, right? But there is another one.
I like to survive.
Indeed. And there is another one question on the culture, and it's very interesting. Actually, the guest who asked the question is also online. Well, the question is, if culture eats strategy for breakfast, will it eat the adaptiveness recently built with all the investments all together? If yes, what would be your best advice to build a culturally uneatable strategy? Philosophical one.
Culture and strategy are all about the organization. The organization is about people. Culture is how an organization thinks, how it talks, how it behaves. It's about its values, it's the relationships within the organization external to it, what is said and done, how it's said and done. And strategy is about how an organization makes sense about where it's going and how it's going to get there. So the two, to me, are inextricably bound together. You can't have a strategy that doesn't reflect the culture in the same way as you can't have a culture that is a dissonance to a strategy. It's part of that organization. Every organization is different. Every organization is unique. And it's about, when you're developing strategy, it's not a technocratic document and a tool that sits outside of the organization or is imposed upon it. It's part of that organization. It's part of expressing where you're going. And to reflect, it has to reflect and be built on how that organization operates, and maybe influence how that changes. So to me, the two are inextricably linked, and one doesn't eat the other. They survive together, and they work together, and they evolve together, and it's a journey of evolution and adaptation.
Yeah, valid point. I do agree. I also just realized that we have one more question, which is also very interesting, but it is kind of doubling what Karl Gash was asking earlier. How do we balance the strategic thinking with strict processes in organization? But I think we have covered that part as well when we were discussing the education organization where Karl Gash is employed. So with this, I would like to wrap up today's discussion. David, thank you very much for sharing your experience with us, expertise. Dear colleagues, if you have any more questions, but they were still not answered maybe by us, do not forget to contact us by our contacts, and we will definitely share this question with David, and then we'll provide the answer. Or feel free to actually add David in LinkedIn by his name and surname. He is there, he is active. So David, thank you for this.
Thank you.
Join our events. This recording will be posted on our channels, and please wait for some slide decks that will be also shared shortly after this event with everyone who registered. So thank you very much. Thank you, David. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, dear colleagues. Stay for more events further with us, and have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you very much. Pleased to meet everybody. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
David.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Bye-bye.
Юля, спасибо.
My pleasure.